I wanted a career in which everything would matter.
Because I'm motivated by something bigger than myself.
So I joined the CIA. And now I help protect our families, our friends, and every fellow American.
Here, my abilities contribute to our mission.
Agency professionals have extraordinary integrity and exceptional talents. And every day, we do work that's incredibly important.
Find out how everything you do in your career can impact our nation. Visit cia.gov/careers to learn more and apply.
What's up, guys? It's Chloe Culpepper, Marketing Coordinator for the Westwood Collective, and I'm here today at The Junction in Old Hilliard. The Junction in Old Hilliard offers flexible office space for all your small business needs, 24/7 co-working memberships, and affordable private offices with reservable conference rooms, daily refreshments, and shared amenities. Work, meet, network. Visit us at junction614.com. That's junction614.com to learn more.
Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name is Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard. Corby, thank you for the introduction on audio as always. I'm super excited today, as always, but when this one was introduced to me, I could not pass this opportunity, because I have a feeling we're going to really inspire a lot of people today with your story. My guest today has a full resume. There's a lot going on here. So let me just read off a few things very quickly. JT Jester is an author. And we'll talk a lot about that today, I'm sure. But also, he is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, podcaster. He's an inspirational speaker based out of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And as if that wasn't enough, he's also an experienced mountaineer, extreme skier, boater, hunter, and adventurer. And his life mission is to encourage people to untether from the natural or self-imposed limitations and live full, passionate lives. Wow, that was a lot. Did I cover it all, JT?
That is awesome. Thank you, Aaron, for having me here. I'm so excited to be on your podcast here and be with you.
Yeah. So why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about you, just right off the gate? I can tell you a few things, and then you can probably unpack those a little bit more. I know one of the most powerful things was right away. By the time you were 3 years old, you had spent 250 days in the hospital. And you had endured 16 major surgeries by the time you were 16. And I'll let you take it from there and really kind of unpack that for us.
So Aaron, when I was born with something called vectoral syndrome. And in my book, No Bad Days, talks about my story, but other people's stories as well, and how they've overcome adversity in life. And so my journey starts off, like you said, at birth. And so basically what I was born with is vectoral syndrome, is a syndrome that affects your GI system, your spinal cord. It can be your kidneys, your heart, and limbs, limb deformities and things like that. And so it has a broad spectrum of different things that are classified under vectoral syndrome, which is an acronym for the different birth defects. Well, for myself, I was born with just a few of these, and so I was very blessed to be, where I am today and where I was then. And so for my journey, my parents were amazing, and they didn't know what they were getting into, but they kept their faith and they stayed strong, and they really persevered on helping me in so many ways, and the doctors too. So early on, the first part of vectoral syndrome that needs to be taken care of for what I had was what they call tracheoesophageal fistulas. And so I had endless pathways in my esophagus that didn't go anywhere specifically and were not connected correctly. Wow. And so from my airways to my esophagus, those are things that needed to be corrected. And then with that, I had what they call a perforated anus. And this is where you're born without an anus, and they have to eventually repair that. But for the first few years of my life, I had a colostomy, and that colostomy was my way of going to the restroom. And
Wow.
and some would argue, I think my parents would argue that, you know what, it's actually easier than diapers sometimes.
Right. I was just thinking that as an infant.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they kind of snaps on like somewhere around your waist, right? But I can't imagine for a toddler having to deal with that.
Yeah. So that I had that for some time, and then they fixed the imperforated anus and did the reversal of the colostomy and putting that back internally to me. And then I did a bowel management program every day is how I flush out my lower intestines. And and so that was my journey for a while, was really working on those 200 and some days in a hospital were lots of medical surgeries and things like that. But it was also that bowel management program, figuring out what worked for my system and the different solutions that we put together to create a clean underwear at the end of the day, but clean stomach and clean me out. And so as that journey went on and I got older, other things popped up and surfaced. And so in the medical journey, the middle school years is when we started to realize I had a tethered spinal cord. And tethered spinal cord is where your spinal cord attaches to your sacrum nerves. And so as you're growing, it's pulling on those nerves and causing different discomforts and different things. I had loss of bladder control. I had a limp. And the limp is really where we started to see the issue. And then as time went on, the doctor said, we need to really look and see if you do have tethered spinal cord, because it's something that goes along with vectoral syndrome. So when they found out I did, we had it was emergency surgery to fix that in my middle school years. And we flew to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and that's where the surgery was performed. And thanks to the good Lord, everything went very smoothly. So came out of there and recovered. And then a few years later, it retethered. And this is something that's common. And I'm actually retethered right now. But as you grow, that's where the issues come about. So in those high school years, I was still growing. And so it caused nerve pain and things like that. So they had to do another surgery to reverse the tethered spinal cord. But right now, I'm retethered, but since I'm not growing anymore, we're good.
Yeah. Do you deal with pain because of that?
The discomfort, I'd say. And I've dealt with pain before with it, but definitely nowadays is, occasional discomfort. But I'm blessed to be working full functioning. And with that, another aspect of the vectoral syndrome is the, like I was talking about, the bowel management. And so talking about quality of life, I have been so blessed to have so many great doctors, but one doctor in particular performed a surgery called the Malone procedure. And that is where they actually take your appendix, attach it to your belly button, and then to your large intestines. And so now I do my bowel management program through my belly button, and it gets a full clean flush and cuts the time from an hour and 15 minutes to 30 to 45 minutes. And so it's unbelievable. And I can do it, very simply. And so it's been able to give me the ability to do a lot of things in life that would not have been plausible. So, yeah.
Just to reiterate that's every day?
Yeah, so every day I do my little treatment, I call it.
Unbelievable. So, and I think I saw that in the video, which we'll talk about Kilimanjaro here.
Yeah.
But is that what was in the video in the IV?
Yeah, so that's exactly in the IV bag. It goes into a catheter, and that catheter goes into catheterize myself through the belly button and perform it right there.
Oh my gosh! Well, we'll go. So, we'll get to Kilimanjaro, but that now I understand what was happening in the video. I actually thought it was related to just climbing. I thought like that was a part of the journey there.
Yep.
Not only that, once you got into school, and I want to say something very quickly because just in case anybody missed it at the very beginning in our opening, you are a mountaineer, extreme skier, boater, hunter, and adventurer. So Everything you just explained, you've had every reason to not be any of those things. And I don't think there's a person in the world that would be like, oh man, come on, you should be able to do this. Unbelievable. So we'll get into that. But I also want to say, when you got into school, you realized that you also had dyslexia and short-term memory. Is that correct as well?
Yeah. So the medical journey really took precedence over everything. And that was our main focus, my parents' main focus, and was making sure those things worked. But as I got older, we started to notice that I was struggling in school and missing lots of school, obviously, because the medical was one thing, but this was a little different. This was definitely something else was going on. And so as we continued in our journey, my school that I was at, which is a great school and was a great spot for me later on in life too. But with that, I was going to school there, and I had gotten to a point where I was struggling so much. Like, for example, to give you perspective, is I would prefer not to go to dinner with friends or with their families and stuff, because first off, I couldn't read the menu. Second off, I couldn't tell the difference between a men's room and a women's bathroom if it just had the word on it, because I couldn't read. And so for me, that was very important, the bathroom. Right. And so it created this And so it created this time that was really challenging, because I wanted to be with friends, but I was a homebody in a way, or, I was close to my parents because it was safe. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we realized that we needed to do something. And so I was at a school that was a private school, and they was offering me a lot of help, and things weren't working. And unfortunately, a gentleman, the headmaster of the school at the time, approached me as a fifth grader and said, JT, this is many meetings with my parents and stuff were going on, but JT, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to come back to this school. And the reason is because, you're not keeping up with the other kids. Mm-hmm. And so as a fifth grader, I ran home, and I remember laying on the kitchen floor and hitting the floor and crying and telling my Mom, all I want to be able to do is read and write like every other kid. Wow. And so at that moment, my parents realized, first off, what a challenging thing for a fifth grader to hear, and not approach my parents first off. But then from there, my parents realized we needed to find something that worked. And so we found a program in Denver, and it's called TADM. Well, now it's called TADM Reading, but it was called Fast Reading at the time. And Denver Academy offered this program, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go there and participate with Steve and his team, and took me from being a non-reader to being, what I would say is much more successful reader now, and really been blessed with that. But, I talk about that headmaster, and in life, we all have those naysayers that tell us, different things that we're not going to be able to achieve. And even that goes with my medical stuff, but we all have those people in our life. But sometimes, like, I look back at this opportunity as an opportunity because he told us this. And if it wasn't for him, I would not be be able to do the things that I can do now because of being pushed to go do that. And so sometimes, in our life, it might be a moment where we're like, this is terrible. Why is this happening? Right. But then being able to look back and realize, well, look at what I've learned from this. And to go on to say that I was homeschooled through middle school, and then I came back in high school, and I went to that school that told me I couldn't go there anymore. Now a new administration is there and was very accepting and really wanted to show that they had the ability to teach anyone. And there's all different learning types. And so, so I think that, being able to find the good and the bad sometimes is always a positive way to look at things.
And I have a feeling that ties into your book a little bit, if not maybe fully. Totally. I have a daughter that is dyslexic. I don't know that I've ever been tested, but you know, when I was in school, I thought I just wasn't very smart. And everyone knows on this podcast what my scores were because I say them quite often. You know, but I think at the same time, I know I have, you know, very similar traits to what my daughter, who has been diagnosed as dyslexic, but you know, she's amazing. And, you know, now they get extra time for tests, and there's a lot of things that they do that when I was in school, they just didn't do it. You just struggled, you know? And, so that's fascinating. And I'm just, was there any point, I think you kind of answered this already but as you were talking, I was thinking, was there ever a point when you were just like, enough? Like I you know, I've dealt with the medical, and now I've dealt with this, and now I've dealt with this. I mean, and I have a feeling it may tie into your book, but like, and I think you just touched on this a little bit, but how were you able to say no bad days? Like, you know, with all of that we've just, and the reason why I think we went through all that is because I wanted people to understand this is who we're talking to. And I think everything we're going to talk about from, you know, moving forward is going to be very inspirational, knowing that you have all of these things that you've been challenged with, and yet here you are.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is we all have our challenges. Like you said, your daughter, that's a challenge for her with the education path. And I don't know about you, but my dad would sit in a lot of my meetings, and at the time, there wasn't a lot of diagnosis of dyslexia for him and stuff. And so he'd sit in those meetings. He's like, that sounds a lot like me. That sounds a lot like me. Right. And picking up on those things. Well, my dad is dyslexic, but he didn't really know it until later on in life. And first off, they say, you know, what is it? 70% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic or ADD or ADHD. And so perfect. It's pretty cool. Right. And so, you know, it's looking at the positive part of it again, right? Sure. And seeing that, but talking about, you know, the positivity and how we're all going to fall in life. We're all going to have those challenges. And the way, you know, No Bad Days, the book came about, was this story of my dad coming into my room in the hospital and leaning over the bed and saying, now I was a youngster, and he looked over the bed and he said, JT, you know, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. And I turned to him, I said, Dad, it's okay. There's no bad days. There's only hard days, and we get through them. And so I think like the biggest point is it's true. We're all going to have a hard day. But every day is a blessing that we wake up and can breathe the air around us and carry on. And so, another, you know, fact about just falling is, you know, we're going to fall in our faith, we're going to fall in our relationships, we're going to fall all around. But being able to pick yourself back up is so important. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, in the book itself, you said this earlier too. It's not just you. You have interviewed other people. Yeah. Is that correct? Yeah. So it's tons of stories of different people and about how they've fallen or how they've, you know, overcome adversity in life, or even like how people have said things and how they've been able to realize the good in what's going on. Mm-hmm. Wow. And especially in the times that we're in right now, because especially with social media and things like that, everybody can pretty much say whatever they want, especially behind a keyboard, it seems like. And sometimes those words sting, you know, and that's what an incredible ability to be able to turn those types of things, whether it's the physical that we've talked about or even, you know, emotional or verbal or any of those things that you've received and turn that into, I love that concept. I really do. And those that will see the video will see that you have this like glow about you. It's pretty amazing. It's not just like a book title. You can tell that you live this life. I mean, you have a joy about you. You see it in the videos on your YouTube channel, which has, did I read it right? Was it over 3 million subscribers? Did I read that? No. We're a few thousand subscribers, but we're we'd love to be at that number.
Well, I read it quickly. Again, there's my dyslexia, I guess. I read it very quickly, but it was a large number, and I was very impressed by that. And you have great videos and content.
Thank you.
As someone that does content, I really appreciated your YouTube channel. It's fantastic. But back to the book, there's a few things that you talk about, a couple of concepts, and one of them is everybody's story matters. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. We all have a story to share, and it's so important that we do share it. There's one story I want to touch on in the book that I think that, I don't know, it just really stands out to me because it relates to me a little bit too. But it's truly a story that matters because we all have that story, but this individual, I think just highlights it so cool. So it's a lady who, first off, it's a letter. It's a letter called A Trip to Holland. And this trip to Holland, this lady is writing about her experience. And so she goes to go to Paris. She's so excited. She's always wanted to go. Bucket list item. Everyone's talked about it and everything. And so she gets on this plane. She has her clothes. She has her maps. She's got her itinerary of what she's going to do. And she takes off and she lands. And the flight attendant gets on the intercom and says, "Welcome to Holland." And so she gets off the plane, and as she's, walking about, she's all flustered and upset, and she's just like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And she's feeling that way, and she's, I don't have the right maps. I don't have the right itinerary, the right clothes, nothing. I don't have the language. But then as time goes on, she's there, and she's acquiring these things. She's learning sort of where things are. She's getting those maps. She's getting the right clothes. And she starts to really love it. And she's like, wow, this is a beautiful place too. And so she gets back on that plane to go home after her trip, and she lands. And as she gets off the plane and she's talking to friends and stuff, they're talking about how amazing and spectacular Paris was. And she's, in her head, she's like, that's awesome. She was very happy for them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she was so happy for herself because she had realized that, even though she went off course, she'd found the happiness that happened. And so it's relating to her story of her son, who was born autistic Down syndrome, and she was told at birth, he won't be able to do this, he won't be able to do that. And, to the point where they said she should put him in a home that would support him. And she, talks about how, basically it's that trip. She expected a healthy baby and this just took her a different route, but the joy and the love and everything that she found within her child and what he was able to accomplish was incredible. She happens to be a Sesame Street writer. Wow. And so she's written for Sesame Street for years. And so she wrote this letter. And with this, she has had her son acting in a lot of different areas, but also acting on Sesame Street and doing a lot of cool things. And so, and he lives on his own with a couple of roommates that are, that are with him, and he lives a happy, amazing life with her and his family. So amazing. That's, a story in the book about, looking at the good and realizing that there's good in everything and so much joy in everything that we do. And even in those hardest of times when you don't know what the outlook on life is going to be, or the future, I should say, that it really can be so positive and so amazing in the end.
Yeah. You had to have so much, it had to be so inspiring how did you find the people because it had to be so inspiring to meet these people and hear these stories that you now, thankfully, you've consolidated and are sharing with the rest of us. How was that process as far as finding the people and interviewing them and that kind of thing?
Well, the process was awesome. This individual happened to be kind of within my life because of the story relating to my parents getting the letter from a nurse when I was young. But we still reached out to her, and she was so willing to be a part of it. But a lot of the individuals in the book have had, challenges in their own way and have overcome them. And some of them, it's their story that we've highlighted, and some of them you would know very well, like Tim Tebow and his story of overcoming dyslexia and his push with that. And then others are people within my life, from medical physicians to educators, and how they have either seen people in hard times or how themselves have overcome things. So it's been really fun to learn so much from others, and to see stories that are just remarkable from, and their outlook on life is remarkable, and how they've gotten through it. I mean, things that, I could never imagine of the challenges that they've been through. So yeah, it's been fun.
Oh, I bet. This very platform that we're on right now, that's how Unscripted started. I wanted to share stories of people that have inspired me, that are friends of mine, and it's grown to a place where I can be on with someone like yourself and share your story. And I'm inspired each time I do an episode. I don't know if anybody else is listening, but I know that I get inspired by these stories and the opportunities to meet people like yourself that just have incredible perspective.
Hey everyone, my name is Cami Pranel, and I'm the Executive Director for My Unscripted. We hope you are enjoying today's interview. My Unscripted is dedicated to helping others find their voice, passion, and follow their dreams. Our team can help create websites, apps, YouTube channels, podcasts, media, and social content. Whatever your passion and vision, we can help. Our good friend Manny Ahome of Samaritan's Feet once said, "Make sure your dreams and goals are big enough to create room for others to join you." We've created room for you to join us too. Find out more at myunscripted.com. Now let's join Aaron for the second half of today's interview.
Can you touch on finding your tribe a little bit?
Totally. So for me, early on, for some reason I was very comfortable with I think just because of my parents and things too, but I was comfortable with sharing what was going on in my life. But one thing that I realized and learned was being able to share my story to people that I trust, and they would support me and help me. And so finding your tribe is it's a chapter in the book, but it's also the meaning behind it is finding those people that in the hardest of times are going to support you and carry you on, or in the best times that are going to be there with you to celebrate too. And it's so important for us all to find that tribe and be able to share with them, because what I've realized is opening up to people allows for them to open up with you. And so you can really get to know someone and be there for them, which in return, they'll be there for you too. And so finding your tribe, as my grandma always said, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And it's so true. Finding like-minded people that excel in areas that you want to learn and grow in, is really important.
That's awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love that concept of that. And, that you have found those things. You have traveled. You've done. You mentioned bucket list. You mentioned in the video that I watched as well. You've probably checked quite a few items off of that bucket list, and one of them was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. It's a fascinating video. If people get a chance, it's at the top of your YouTube page. Yeah. Can you just talk about that? Because I've got questions. When I watched that video, I had so many questions. But what a fascinating story! So just if you don't mind starting off, what made you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro? Like, is that what made that make it on your list?
So. I guess that, my biggest thing has been where I found the most joy and the most relaxation and the most ability to get away from the things in life that has caused me, hardships and stuff, has been in nature. And so for me, going to nature, whether that's here in my backyard in Michigan or whether that's in the mountains in Colorado or Kilimanjaro, it's always been about adventure and being able to do sports and things that take your mind off of what's going on around you. And so Colorado has been a place where I've been able to enjoy climbing. And with that, a gentleman named Ladislav, who's a dear, dear friend of mine and very influential in my life and a mentor, he has taught me so much about the outdoors, whether that's, climbing mountains or ice climbing or skiing is actually how we started our relationship. And then, hunting and those kind of things too. He's really impacted me and taught me a lot. But what I've realized is that you can really focus on what's going on. When you're ice climbing, every single stroke of your ice axe and crampons is concentrating, and you're focused on that. And so it allows to relieve, some of the stresses in life. But with that, Kilimanjaro came about because me and him had been talking for a while of what is something that would be practical and possible for me to do, but still a challenge. And so we came up with Kilimanjaro. And so on our trek to Kilimanjaro, we started training in Colorado,
right.
And we had to figure out how I could do my medical procedure on the mountain. And so, like I said earlier, I have that Malone procedure that allows it to be so much easier.
Yeah.
So once we figured out the way we're going to do it, we said, we have to do it within 4 days. We have to summit in 4 days because that will give us, first off, shortening up the time is less time away from the bathroom and less medical supplies we have to bring. And then also it set a goal for us. And so that's what we chose to do. And as we went to Tanzania to go climb Kilimanjaro, we had an amazing team that we put together, and they seriously, they call them porters in Africa, and then Mount Everest, they call them a different name for porters and stuff, but Sherpas. And so these guides are just incredible what they did for us and stuff, and they don't get enough recognition. But this trek would be 4 days long. We get there, we set up, and we get to our first base camp, and I do my first treatment on the mountain, and it works great. Next day we go up higher, and we get to another camp, do our treatment, everything goes well. Well, the next day we'd be going to an elevation that I had never been,
right,
and never reached before. It was above 14,500 some feet. And so when we got to that point, I started to get a little bit of altitude sickness. And so we retract a little bit, and what you do is you just sort of rest at that elevation or come down a little bit. And we did that, and the headaches went away and continued on. We get to our base camp. Now we're at 16,000 feet, so it's the highest I've ever done my treatment at, and maybe one of the highest in the world.
Wow.
And that's another story. We tried to get a Guinness World Record for that, but so
that would have been awesome.
So we get to that point, and we do my treatment, or I do my treatment, and I'm doing it in the tent and stuff. And I realized that it did not go as how it usually should go, and I was a little concerned, but we had to wake up at 4 a.m, so it was like, let's get to bed. So we got to bed, and from there we woke up at 4 a.m, and I still didn't feel perfect or totally like a full clean out, but we headed up. And as we were going, we got to a section of ice or glacier ice that typically in this route, it's called Umbe route. It's the fastest ascending route. It's a single track, and at this point, you're climbing on your hands and feet in some sections. I mean, you're pretty physical as opposed to just a hike up the mountain. And so we had to cross this glacier section about 30 to 40 feet long, with some scattered rocks through it, but we had to, use the proper gear to get across. So as we're crossing it, I look between my legs and I'm like, this is not a spot you want to be, and this is focus on getting across. I mean, from several thousand feet drops below us, and so we get across, and our guide says to us, "Okay, there's no turning around now. We have to make it to the summit and go down the other side because this is, too dangerous to come back or through, and plus, it's too steep to descend as well." Mm-hmm. So we start going, and we're making good progress, and about 30, 40 an hour into it, I start to realize I get what I call a hot stomach, and my stomach is all upset, and so what comes with that is what you can imagine.
Right.
And so we continue on, and that diarrhea and that stuff caused me to get dehydrated, which really increased and made the altitude sickness come across even faster. And so we just had to keep pushing on. And so with that team the team and the good Lord is the way we made up that mountain.
Wow.
And we got to a point where you could see the Kilimanjaro congratulations sign.
Yeah.
And the adrenaline, the excitement, and all of the above kicked in, and we, what we thought was running, but we were probably just fast walking to that sign, and got our pictures and had an amazing experience, and a spiritual experience too, of just like, wow, this is an amazing accomplishment for me that I never thought I'd be able to do. And so we headed down the mountain after that, and the sickness all came back, and we titled it, I think, Throwing Up with a Smile, because the whole way down I was throwing up every couple 100 yards or so. No. But that smile is still sticking around because it was amazing experience in what we just accomplished.
Well, you just answered one of the questions I was going to ask you, because there's so many I have. I'll try to keep them I'll try to keep it to a few. But the first one was, how do you get down? I mean, how do you get down? And how long does that take? Does that take 4 days as well, or? No,
so you can make it down within a day. And so basically we went down a different route, and this route was kind of like a highway. It's the only other route up the mountain. And it was, a highway on the mountain was, you could stand 2 people, 3 people wide, maybe even 4 people in some areas. But we made our way down, and Kilimanjaro is a very frequented mountain. There's a lot of people that climb it every year. And it's a very doable, successful mountain for many people. And that's, you acclimatize and you do it, through a procedure of that. But on our route up, we saw a handful of people, but most nights, the 3 nights we slept on the mountain, we slept alone. It was just us on the mountain, and our tents and our guides and our porters. And that's because we did this Umbe route. Well, this trail going down allows for the other big amounts or majority of people to come up. And one thing that's kind of sad, but it goes on, our guide was carrying this mesh bag. And I kept asking him, why do you have that? And he said, this mountain provides for me and my family, and I want to take care of it. And it's to pick up the trash. Oh. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. But there's no trash.
Yeah.
And so I think he picked up 1 or 2 things. And then on the way down, unfortunately, it's a pretty cluttered mountain, just from the amount of people and from wrappers to Gatorade bottles to all sorts of things. And, he's picking up as much of it as he can. And it's sad, but it's really cool to see that, what he's doing to take care of what he provides for him and stuff. Right. And so the whole experience was unbelievable and really, really cool to be able to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I think that, for all of us, setting goals, whatever that goal is so important. And for me, I was blessed to be able to do that. But, there's many goals that we can all set, and writing down that bucket list I call it a bucket list, but
Right.
writing down those things, has been one way that I've been able to accomplish, lots of things.
Yeah.
Whether it's a daily routine or a different feat of doing a 5K, 10K, whatever it is. It's important to be able to put them down on paper so you can see what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, and I think everybody's got their Kilimanjaro. I think,
Yeah.
whether that's a 5K, a couch to a 5K, or climbing Kilimanjaro. I mean, there's a pretty wide span in between those two. But how long did you guys stay up at the top once you made it?
Honestly, we were probably there for 30 minutes at the most.
Really?
We just sort of had to keep moving. We got our pictures and stuff, and then headed down. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we visited the Grand Canyon. You're kind of like, yep, there it is. And I know there's some things you can do there, but it was kind of like, we had taken this long drive to get there, and then when we got there, it was like, yep, there it is. So
It's
then we
awesome.
kind of moved on. It was beautiful and all those things, but it was like, there it is. We can see it. So that's amazing. One of the things that you talked about too was there's 5 different climate zones on the way up. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You're going from rainforest to desert to forest to desert to high alpine desert to alpine like snow, and just really, really wild changes in temperature and climate and all that.
So that brings me to my last question. How much weight were you carrying? Because you had to probably have heavy, you had your tents. I assume you take it all with you. So how much weight were you carrying?
Yeah, so this is where you look like a wimp. The porters carry so much of your gear.
Wow.
And that's why I always am like, it's unbelievable what they do. Now, for me, we had a couple extra porters because of the medical stuff that we had to bring.
Right.
And I am so thankful for those guys, because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have been doable. I mean, we did have a backpack and we did have our gear. And I can't remember the exact weight, but still a big majority, like our tents and some of my medical fluids and things like that. The porters helped us get up the mountain. So
Wow.
They really are the heroes of the mountain.
Yeah.
And they, know that like the back of their hand just so well.
It's so funny because you probably have so many analogies that came from that journey, literal journey, not just the the cliche word.
Yeah.
And one of them, as you were talking, I'm just thinking we all need porters in our lives, right? I mean, we need people that'll carry our stuff for us a little bit sometimes and know the way. And I think you touched on it when we talked about your tribe. Trusting people in our lives to be able to guide us, even in truly dangerous situations. And there's people that want to do that. So that's just one analogy I can think of, but there's probably so many that you had.
But that's a really good one, because that moment that I was, almost to the summit, I mean, we're at the point where we could see the sign. I had my backpack, but I was really sick and it was really challenging. And one of the guides turned to us. Now at this point, all the porters don't go to the summit. They, start heading down and packing up gear. But our 2 guides and 1 porter came with us. And so at that point, Simon, our guide, said, let us take the backpack. And it was hard to give up that backpack.
Yeah.
But because I was like, well, I want to accomplish this all, by myself, even with my backpack.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I gave him that backpack. And when I look back at it now, it's, you're right. Like, finding our tribe, being able to pick us back up when we fall and move us forward is so important. And it reminds me of another story of Lottie, the guy who I did Kilimanjaro with, but who also has introduced me to the outdoors. But that first day I met him, I had been skiing for years, but he was a ski coach, and he came into our life and my family's life and changed my life in so many ways. But one of the stories was how he said, JT, we're on a chairlift going up. He said, JT, we're going to learn to fall today. Now, I'd been skiing and I knew how to ski and stuff. So I was like, this is kind of counterintuitive. But okay, and we get up there, we look over the ledge, and he's like, okay, JT, we're going to fall to the left. We're going to fall to the right. And so we're doing this, and then I realize and I learn why he wanted to do this is because it really taught me, first off, how to perform in when you are falling, how to fall safely, but also how to try to prevent falling. And in life, we need those people, like those porters, like like the teachers in our life, like the medical professionals in our life, and like the friends, the best friends of our life, that tribe, those people, we need them to come. We need them there to help carry our backpack,
Yes.
figuratively, carry us through those hardships and really get us up the mountain.
Yeah.
And back down.
We're
going to have our ups and downs.
No, right. I mean, right. Again, and sometimes, oh gosh, I can think of a million things off the top of my head right now, and I can't imagine. I didn't even climb it. I have the benefit of living through your story, but how much harder the climb up is sometimes than it is, and how quickly we can go right back down. That's just another one that I just thought of. There's so many that you probably have as well from being there. But man, you are a fascinating story. Your life is a fascinating story, even more than I knew before we got on here today. It is what a blessing. And I think there's many ways other people can follow you and learn more about you. Obviously, the book. And did the book just come out?
Yeah, so No Bad Days just came out. Actually, a week ago here, March 8th is when it came out, and so it's been a fun journey, just being able to share these stories that are in it, and already the feedback that I've heard from people and how they've enjoyed it. So it's been really fun. But yeah, you can find the book anywhere books are sold. Okay. And so it's called No Bad Days: How to Find Joy in Any Circumstance. And then for finding out more about me and the book, JT Jester Speaks on all social media, and our website, jtjester.com.
jtjester.com. I will have those links in this post. I am blessed to have a copy of the book, and I can't wait to read it. I got it not in time to read it before we got on here today, but I can't wait to read it, and especially after having spoken to you and heard your story, I really can't wait to dig into the book because I love other people's stories and getting lost in those. I think we find so much inspiration for all of us and whatever it is that we're walking through, dealing with. There's somebody's got a story out there that can inspire us. Yeah,
it's so true. We all have to share our stories. We have to find that tribe to carry us on through our story, and we have to learn to fall and get back up. So Thank you for
absolutely
for
this
everything.
Has been an honor. I have one more question for you. What's next?
Yeah.
Because I know you probably have a next. What's next?
Oh, what's next? Well, you spoke about the Grand Canyon, and I'm doing before that I'm doing a paddleboard event, which is 61 miles of paddleboarding here in the Great Lakes here. So very excited about that.
Wow.
I did it last year to make sure it was possible in segments, and this year we're going to do it all as one. And it's with a team of people too that are doing it as well. And then the Grand Canyon, I'm doing something called Rim to Rim. Okay. So it's going from one side of the Grand Canyon down through the valley and back up the other side, which I'm very excited about.
Wow. You never stop, man. It's amazing. And I can't wait to continue to follow your journey. It mentioned podcast. Do you have a podcast as well?
I do, yeah. So, the JT Jester Speaks on YouTube. Okay. And right now all of our podcasts are on that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, you are fascinating. It's been a blessing talking to you today. You've spoken to me in many ways with your story and the things that you've shared, and I'm so thankful that you came on today and spent some time with us.
Well, Aaron, thank you, and thank you for sharing your stories and so many other people, because it truly is impactful for so many. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, I wish you nothing but the best. We'll be following along, and I can't wait to dig into the book. So, again, you can get that book wherever books are sold. And congratulations, by the way. I don't want to gloss over that. Writing a book is not an easy task. I actually, spoiler alert, I have a what do they call it? A book proposal form on my desk right now. And I can't even bring myself to fill that out. And you wrote the whole book.
That's exciting.
It is exciting, but it's a daunting task. It's a scary task. And I don't know that it'll ever get filled out, but it is sitting right next to me on my desk right now. So that alone, congratulations on the launch of the book and everything that you've achieved.
Well, thank you. And you too.
All right. We will talk soon, and keep doing what you're doing. No bad days.
Right, no bad days. Only hard days.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Unscripted Podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll see you next time on Unscripted with Aaron Conrad.